You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with Mike and Jesse.
Actually, I'm gonna crack my beer. Off mic.
Crack a beer.
Oh, fuck me, that's good. Oh, Jesus.
What are you drinking?
There's a pretty famous Massachusetts brewery called Treehouse Brewing.
Nice.
Their main location is like kind of out in the middle of the state. It's like probably 2 or 2.5 hours from me. It's kind of out close to the Berkshire Mountains. So you wouldn't think that Massachusetts has a lot of rural, but it sure does. And they recently opened up another location out on Cape Cod, which is much closer to me. And I happened to be in Sandwich, Mass yesterday for work.
Nice.
Stopped at their satellite, and they have the ridiculous selection of stuff canned, like ready to go. So this is a oak conditioned alt beer.
Oak conditioned, ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen.
oak conditioned alt beer. It's a dark Munich, not a lager. It's one of the rare German ales.
That is an interesting, I've never heard that term, oak conditioned.
Yeah.
So it must mean an oak barrel?
Yeah, they probably finish it in an oak barrel. I don't know why they wouldn't say oak aged. Maybe because aged implies that it's been aging for a while.
Sitting.
Which alt beers are usually pretty fresh beers, like they don't sit around too much. So
Yeah.
Whatever.
You been playing anything recently?
New stuff? Not really. I'm trying to think. Oh, I did. Yes, a little bit. So it's kind of funny because this plays right into some of the stuff we've been talking about recently, but I took my son out to a couple of shops to use some of his like birthday gift cards. And, he wanted to buy a $50 gigantic Pokemon stuffy. He already has several giant Pokemon stuffies. And I was like, hey, bud, I know you love this thing, but do you really think that's a good way to spend $50?
Right.
We could go look at the video games on the next rack and see what you can find. And he ended up picking, at my recommendation, the Metroid Prime remaster for Switch. And, whew, man, that... As soon as we booted it up,
scheming bastard.
Man. As soon as we booted it up and that opening menu music starts playing, it took me straight back.
Is it
Holy
2002 crap. Again?
That game is so good. It doesn't even age that badly. Like he was playing it and I'm watching him and I'm like, not only does it look pretty good, but like this is still a good ass game.
Yeah, I heard it. The remaster remake was really good. I have never played Metroid Prime. I know that's kind of sacrilege, but my friend spoke very highly of it. He was a big fan of that, especially it's interesting considering the original platforming of Metroid, turning it into a 3D first-person shooter was risky, I think. But it turned out very well for Nintendo, and my buddy loved it.
Yeah, fantastic. And like it really showed off what the I think it was GameCube, right? It was on GameCube. Yeah. It really showed off what the GameCube could do because like around that time, you know, Nintendo was facing some pretty stiff competition with, you know, PlayStation 2, and I think that they were probably a little bit behind the eight ball to put out some sort of a next gen console that could really shine. And the N64 was a great console, but the GameCube was such a step above it. It's almost incomparable. Really great stuff.
I think Nintendo, since the N64, I think that was their last attempt at remaining, I don't want to say relevant, but I want to say in competition. Because, I mean, their hardware has not lived up to what the others have brought. So when you're talking GameCube versus PlayStation 2, I mean, you've got the Xbox that just recently came out at that point, and the PlayStation 2 could play DVDs. Nintendo's great and they make quality products and I will always love what they put out, but they just were behind the ball in terms of when the GameCube came out and what it offered in terms of multimedia. Yeah. So I think that hurt them. And then they went on to the Wii, which was equivalent, maybe slightly more, but I would say pretty on the level with PlayStation 2 hardware. And at that point, PlayStation 3 and 360 were out. Yeah. So they like gave up on trying to directly compete with fancy graphics and stuff. And I'm totally in support of that because I know it takes a lot more than flashy graphics to make a good game. Obviously, they did just fine with the Wii. But
yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that they've always stuck to their guns on is making sure that they were very strict about third-party content, high QC, like not putting out buggy messes
until the Wii.
Until the Wii.
Until the Wii.
And then the guardrails kind of fell off and things went a little sideways there.
Everyone and their brother made a Wii game and it was terrible. But the Wii itself was fun. I played Twilight Princess. That was my first game for the Wii, and that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Great game. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you mention the DVD player aspect of like the PS2.
It's the only reason like that console lasted that long.
It was literally a deciding factor for me on whether or not I was going to get a PS2 or a GameCube.
Exactly.
My parents ended up buying a DVD player, so I didn't need to get a PS2 anymore, and I got a GameCube instead.
Nice.
But it was like, if I needed a DVD player, I would have had to get a PS2. So it was the only reasonable way that I was going to get one.
I mean, I had a PlayStation 1, big fan.
Yeah.
And then PlayStation 2 came out. I got a whiff of that at my friend's house, and I was like, I have to have this. So when I got my first job, I saved up for that for a couple months, and I went to the mall and bought it. And yeah, the DVD player was huge in that because at that point, DVD players were brand new. If you could have a game system and a DVD player in one, it's like a no-brainer. But the other deciding fact was that Final Fantasy had jumped ship to Sony at that point. And so Final Fantasy X was out on PS2. So even though I despised that game, I didn't at the time. So I thought it's there, so I have to get a PS2. And here we are so many years later. Final Fantasy VII Remake and 16 is why I own a PS5.
They still got you. They get their claws in you.
They do, and
they got them in me too, so it's fine.
I think it's stupid. The whole console exclusivity thing is just stupid. We've talked about it before. I'm just over it. Silent Hill 2 just came out, and they did it too. So, they've got that for a year before it's going to come out to Xbox and anything like that. I know we're approaching today's topic, but can I just gush about Silent Hill 2 for 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
It's so good, Jesse. So good. I'm almost done with it. My first playthrough. I'm taking my time, and like a dumbass, I chose to play it on hard the first time. That being said, I'm a veteran of this series and a veteran of Silent Hill 2 specifically. I was playing that game. I knew it inside and out. I did my own speed runs before they were really a thing. And I clocked in, my best time was in like an hour and 7 minutes for the first iteration of Silent Hill 2.
I remember trying to speed run the original Resident Evil 1. And that's about as far as I got in speed running. So
I like speed running. It's interesting. I wish I could do it at like full time. I'm not anywhere near the level of the people who do it for charity, but yeah. So Silent Hill 2, I'm blown away at the fact that Bloober, everyone who was hating on them, by the way, made this, and it is fantastic. It's getting fantastic reviews. I'm laughing in the faces of everyone who shit on it before it came out. And I'm just surprised at how new the game feels, because they added stuff that keeps veterans like myself intrigued and confused. So I'm learning new things. I'm learning new puzzles. new enemies. I'm like, whoa, this is completely new to me, this area. So very cool. I'm still getting my scares. I'm feeling a little anxiety when I'm playing this game because they did a stellar job with atmosphere. So nice. I'm very much enjoying it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the only other new thing I'm playing real quick, I'll get a plug in there because I've really been enjoying it, is a game called Cyber Shadow. It's by the same folks that did Shovel Knight, Yacht Club Games.
Oh, Yacht Club, yeah.
Came out probably like a year or two ago. It was on Kickstarter for a while, I think. But it's basically a modernized Ninja Gaiden, side-scrolling, climbing on walls, jumping around, using ninja skills. But the enemies are very like kind of synth wavy. Like the boss that I'm trying to beat right now is a giant flying mechanical dragon that dives in and out of the water and breathes fire at you. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty
good about that.
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. I bet you it's Jake Kaufman. Did he do the soundtrack for that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
He did Shovel Knight. And he was there for all the expansions on Shovel Knight.
Who did the Cyber Shadow OST? It says by Pentadrangle.
Pentadrangle.
Interesting.
Never heard. Well,
it's on the Yacht Club website.
I'll have to check that out. But for today, you and I had a little bit of a meeting of the minds last week when it was announced Nobuo Uematsu was retiring. Obviously, the internet took the news and ran with it, and he has since clarified that he's only stepping back. He's not retiring. He wants to do more of what makes him happy rather than devoting hours and hours and days to full-length soundtracks, which obviously require a lot more time. So the good news is we haven't heard the last of him. The bad news is it is the end of an era in many ways. No longer will we get the grand Uematsu soundtracks, but rather grandiosity in bite-sized chunks.
Mm-hmm.
We did decide to continue with this episode the way we had talked because it is a little bit of a tectonic shift. I think, that is, even though he isn't retiring, his presence in video game composition has lessened in the past 10 years, and this announcement will only lessen his presence more. So, to have such a juggernaut stepping away from composition and composing video games, it is a loss. I look forward to what we get from him in the future, but yeah, the main portion of his career is over, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, especially for the Square Enix stuff, he was the guy. I mean, he did the entire OSTs for,
first 9 Final Fantasy.
The first 9 Final Fantasy games. And then
all by himself.
Yeah, once we got into 10, 11, and then there on out, a lot of times he would not really be like a guest composer, but he would kind of step back a little bit, and he would work on a couple of tracks with other composers like Soken and there's a ton of Square Enix composers that we could talk about, but you'd start to see maybe 5 or 6 tracks on a particular OST be straight from him, and then maybe some collaboration with some other composers on a few others. And nowadays on some of the newer Final Fantasies, like 16, it's the most recent one to have come out. I think he did 2 or 3 songs. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, I feel like it's really let the musical styles that are part of the Final Fantasy series and other, Square Enix titles, and even stuff, from outside their stable, kind of flex their muscles a little bit. Like you listen to some newer games put out by them, and you can tell that there's different compositional styles, different goals of the soundtracks. It's good. We're getting a lot of variety, but really, he was the grandpapa of video game soundtracks as we know them. He really had a huge influence on what we now know as video game music.
Yeah, there are really few composers who open doorways. I mean, what can you say about someone who saw a new medium as an opportunity for genuine expression of art and creativity. I mean, there are some who take chances, and despite not being the first composer to deliver an enjoyable or creative soundtrack, Nobuo Uematsu really stood tall amongst his peers with just engaging and oftentimes emotionally driven songs. So, since 1986, he's scored countless games, notably, like we've talked about, for Final Fantasy. And with each passing entry, the soundtracks felt like they became more complex and more creative. The songs span from like orchestral narratives to waltzes to hard rock music to opera. He really challenged himself and his listeners with his compositions.
Yeah, and it's easy to, to just say, oh, he's the Final Fantasy guy. To your point, like he's done a bunch of stuff outside of the Final Fantasy series. I mean, a lot of them have been, Square Enix games, but not all of them. I mean, he did the soundtrack for Blue Dragon, which was a really cool game. I think Microsoft actually put that one out.
Yeah, that was a 360 title.
Yep. And then he also did another 360 title, which I've never played personally, called Lost Odyssey. I mean, and the list goes on. I mean, there's a ton of music that he's done outside of the Final Fantasy series, but I think he definitely had the biggest formative influence within the Final Fantasy series. I mean, he was the first. He was the first video game composer that I knew by name, and I think that's probably true for a lot of people, to be totally honest.
This episode, I think, and I mentioned something earlier to you, but this is a little bit personal for me because almost every episode is personal, but we are talking about the pseudo-retirement of Nobuo Uematsu, and it doesn't come as a shock. I think he has been he's had some health issues, I think, a couple years ago. I know when I went to go see Distant Worlds in like 2015 or 16, he was supposed to be there, but he couldn't make it due to some health concerns. But what this episode is compared to some other episodes is extremely personal. I'm not sure I would be doing this show right now if it weren't for this man's work. I know a lot of people might dismiss what I'm saying and say you're just being dramatic. Yes, I liked video game music before I knew of Nobuo Uematsu. That's true, but something about his music, the difference here is that the heart that went into it, what I perceived to go into it, I experienced my first real emotional reactions in a game to Final Fantasy IV, 2 on Super Nintendo. It's a combination of story, characters, and the music that gave real life to it. And tonight, I just want to focus on the man himself and celebrate what he's meant to us by picking songs from the entire catalog. This show will just simply be a thank you to him and his beautiful and inspiring creativity. So I thought with that announcement last week, this would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, and it really gives us a chance to not only just talk about some great music, but, to your point, like there's an emotional impact to a lot of the pieces that he's put together because of, the formative influence of, him on our love of video game music, but also the experiences that we had going through the games at the moments that some of these songs were playing. And when I picked out a few songs for, the episode today, that was the thing that I really tried to focus on was what was the emotional impact of these songs on me in the moment. So I hope you'll forgive me for reminiscing a bit when we talk about some of the entries, both yours and mine, because really, I think they're all really impactful. We did a great job kind of throwing together a nice mix, we'll say. Yeah.
And I want to say, to start us off, I'm going to honor the first game of his that I ever experienced, the first soundtrack, and that is Final Fantasy IV. Theme of love between Cecil and Rosa was a beautiful piece and really drove home their story throughout the adventure. It may be one of his most famous works because it actually got him some recognition. I know some Japanese schools began teaching it to their students, but the through line of Final Fantasy IV for me was the desperation, the militaristic force of the Red Wings, and Cecil's battle with himself and his past. It's a very dark story, which includes redemption from ordering the deaths of innocent people in the name of the king. And Nobuo's introduction to the album is a dark and driving song for the Red Wings as 5 airships head to their destination. The song is very militaristic and unforgiving with its snare drums and violent stings, but also it has that undertone of Cecil's anguish. He's struggling to accept his king's orders, and it brings out a lot of emotion. I feel like, there's that driving militaristic tone that sets the stage for like an unrelenting force, but hidden is a little bit of sadness for Cecil.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I played, obviously, Final Fantasy 1 was my first game, and Final Fantasy 2, at that point, I still have my cartridge, there's 2 on it, was my second kind of exposure to the series, and I hadn't really played very many RPG games in between. And even from the first time that I booted the game up, this song makes an immediate impact.
Oh, yeah.
To your point with Cecil's, kind of internal struggles, they really encapsulate basically the story of the whole game. But, you'd think that some storytellers might introduce you to a character that you're told you need to hate and then eventually need to learn to love. Cecil's totally the other way around. I mean, you get introduced to his internal conflict literally right from jump in the prelude of the game. And it follows the through line of the game all the way through to the very last battle with Zaramas. And I feel like if you had to pick an anthem for Final Fantasy IV, this song is it, hands down.
It tests your ability to get over what he's doing, right? In the beginning, he is technically the bad guy. I mean, you feel bad for him because he does have a conscience and he's following orders, as soldiers will do. But he's taking that moment to stand up to his king in the opening moments of the game. But you get to see his soldiers kill innocent civilians at his order. And it's like, oof. So this is my main character. I'm supposed to feel bad for this guy. It's a dark opening, but
yeah,
it's a fantastic opening. And I think it showed just how different Square was leaning. They are now taking more serious tones with their games, and this was quite a jump from Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3. Not just in technology, but storytelling.
Yeah, and this is a song that keeps coming back throughout the course of the game, and every single time you hear those opening chords, you're like, oh no, something's going to go down. This is bad news. I'll never forget being in the underworld. And, the first time the Red Wings make their way down into the underworld through the volcano that, you blew the top off of, suddenly realizing that, the whole world is going to change now that they have access to the underworld and they're going to go to war with the dwarves. And it's just, man. Yeah.
The song itself feels like it takes on almost a different meaning by the end of the game, where it becomes Cecil's anthem of pride and strength, inner strength, because in the entire last dungeon, this is the song you're hearing. It went from a source of pain for Cecil and became his source of strength by the end of the game. Very cool.
Man, it's funny. You were messaging me at I don't know, like 3:00 today, like, hey, could you get me your choices? Because I'd like to pre-listen to them. That way we can kind of develop some thoughts. And I had been basically driving around for work for most of the day, just kind of going through a bunch of different songs, trying to narrow down, trying to come up with a good mixed list that showed a couple of different musical styles and also highlighted some, really impactful moments in my gaming history. And I'll tell you what, narrowing down that list was pretty tough, but we done did it. We done did it. And the first one that I'd like to call out is Roses of May from Final Fantasy IX. That's General Beatrix's theme. And I feel like Final Fantasy IX is a game that never really got the respect that it was due, especially at the time that it came out. I mean, totally. I mean, going from the, futuristic, kind of gritty feel of Final Fantasy VII into the sort of like really, really high fantasy, high tech world of Final Fantasy VIII, and then going all the way back almost to like a medieval feeling, classic fantasy story in 9. It didn't seem to resonate with a lot of people, but
that's surprising because that's what drew me there in the first place. I'm sure it drew a lot of people there in the first place. And to witness people hating on that game so hard, I was like, well, this is just unwarranted. Like, this is petty. A lot of it felt petty, but, I can understand there is a level of childlike wonder with that game that may turn some people off.
What you just said, childlike wonder, that's the thing that I really found myself loving about this game. I think that of all of the games in the Final Fantasy series, I've played through this one the most times. I mean, it's probably been, probably
awesome
6 or 8 times easily.
Nice.
And I think that it's that sense of wonder and the whimsy that Nobuo brings to the music in a lot of the songs in this game. I mean, like we said before, this is the last one of the main series that he scored entirely on his own, as far as I'm aware. And that sense of wonder and whimsy really just infuses the whole soundtrack.
Yeah.
This particular song, General Beatrix's theme, is one that it's just heartbreaking. It really is. Because, she, from the very jump, you can tell that she's really struggling to follow her queen's orders. Queen Ron has been possessed.
Kind of like the female
something's
Cecil.
Wrong.
Yeah.
It's right. I mean, really, there are a lot of parallels to Cecil and his story. And this particular song, especially at the point of the game that it plays, when she finally makes an outward admission that she knows something is wrong, but she's her queen and she has to follow her orders. It's just,
it's heartbreaking. But this song is, I call it a simple masterpiece because it's almost completely just piano, and it's such a delicate melody. And this song is like her heart talking. You can feel the inner struggle with her and that push and pull of, do I follow my orders or not? And then finally having the strength to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
And that's something you can always count on from Beatrix. She's going to do what she knows to be right in spite of her job. She's a true General Leo, if ever there was one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always loved Beatrix. And to your point, I think I went through this game 2, maybe 3 times the first when it came out. And then I just went through it a few years ago, the remastered version on Xbox. And oh man, it lost nothing. And I loved every moment of that.
Yeah. And, this particular song actually comes back later on in the soundtrack with one. I think the title is called Something to Protect. And it's basically a mashup of this song, Roses of May, and Steiner's song. And it's when Alexandria, the city, is being attacked, and they find themselves fighting back to back. And they both realize they have something to protect in each other and the city. And the fusion of those two songs, especially with all the action that's taking place on the screen at the time, is it's really, really something special. It's a masterpiece.
And this album as a whole, just to touch on where the mindset was with this game, it was that return to form. That whether or not that resonated with fans, okay, it's about a 50-50 split, if you want my honest opinion. There is a hard line that people either love or hate this game, and I'm on the side where it's really good. But I think Nobuo's approach to this album as a whole was very almost as if the whole thing was a play. And I think that's obvious because the game opens with a play, right? So, they were abandoning that high-tech veneer of the last 2 games in favor of this medieval majesty that made the series popular. And the whole album is very whimsical, very magical, and it has a lot of that wonder, that really innocent wonder. The game itself is not terribly dark, but there are parts of it that get dark, and it's still very adult at times, and some of the themes are very intense, even for a game that looks childlike or feels childlike with the music. And that brings me to my next song. Memoria is almost completely different than anything else you're going to find on this soundtrack. And it just takes the listener to another place mentally. It is from a game that gets that hate because of the childlike whimsy, but this song really paints a darker picture. It takes place in the last dungeon. This is the last area you traverse to get to the final battle, and it's just very elegant and mysterious. It captures the mystery of the game's final dungeon impeccably. I'm speaking in an ethereal tone. This is a very dreamlike song, and it takes you just to a different place while you're listening to it. Very unsettling nature. There's even some light xylophone in there to kind of keep the childlike whimsy alive, as with the rest of the album. But this song as a whole really, really speaks to me. And anyone who knows me in this show knows that I like a darker, more melancholic, reflective song. And I think this song has no business on this album, but at the same time, it fits it perfectly. It's very, very dark, very dreary, and very inward looking is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, it's got a kind of a surreal nature to it. The area that you're, traversing, this final dungeon, Memoria being the name of it, it's just a very strange place, as final dungeons do, often tend to be. There's points where you're, walking upside down, up staircases that spiral off to nowhere, walking through like literal outer space at one point. It's
defies logic, and
the dungeon defies logic, and I think that this song really does that justice without being like too weird or overbearing. It's just mood setting enough, just spooky enough, and it just, I think it does exactly what that stage needs it to do, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. He definitely pulled out some new and fun techniques with this song. It's very ethereal and just discordant. It feels very unsettling. I think that's a good word to use it, because it's not, it doesn't always go where you think it's going to go, and new things are introduced later on, and it really just keeps the setting fresh, and it is a blast to listen to. It's not a heart pounder or anything like that. It is very mellow, but very, very unsettling.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I like the most is the kind of reserved use of horns in a couple of points in the song. The point where some of the background to the track just kind of falls away, and then you've got these low, kind of almost mournful clarinets and woodwinds in the background. It's really, it's beautiful. It is.
Great song. Now, we talked a little bit about, first of all, have you played through every Final Fantasy?
No. God, no.
Okay. Me neither.
I've played through all of the mainline titles. Like the regular numbered ones, but I haven't played through Dirge of Cerberus or the other Final Fantasy VII spinoff with Zack in it. What the heck's it called? I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
I haven't played 10-2. I did play 13-2, but I didn't play 13-3. Lightning Returns.
Okay.
But all the other mainline ones I have. Yeah.
Nice. I still need to make my way through 8. I own it. I got it on release day, and something was wrong either with my disc or my memory card or whatever. But every time I got to the end of the first disc, my file would get corrupted. Every time. And
it's a great game.
Nothing else would get corrupted. So it was literally just that game. I tried it about 3 times.
It's definitely worth picking up, like one of the re-releases of. It's a game. I think that 8 is, and I know a lot of people love 8 because they love the characters, they love the time travel aspect of the story. There's a lot there to like, but it's the only mainline Final Fantasy game that I've never played through a second time, just because I found the mechanics of the combat system, the draw system, the way you have to use summons over and over and over and over again to build up your affinity with them so that they summon faster. I just found it very dull and very grindy. So, but
I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
I don't know. They were just trying to make Final Fantasy more hardcore and grindy. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was, but it does have some great music. And to be fair, there's a few songs in there that could easily have made this list.
Oh yeah. Not missing a beat at all with the soundtrack to that game.
No.
Especially, oh man, Laguna's theme, that battle.
Oh, Man with a Machine Gun.
I love that theme. Yeah.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Whew.
So good.
God. Seeing that one played in concert is awesome.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Yeah, it is my goal to get back to maybe Final Fantasy 12. I haven't played that one either. I started 13. I have not finished it. I fell off after 10, and I don't know if it's justified or not, but I hated 10. I couldn't stand it. It is the only Final Fantasy that I was like, when is this going to be over?
Yeah.
I beat it at like level 44 or 45, and it was one of the hardest fights I've ever played because I'm like, I just need to finish this.
Yeah. It's, I don't want to dog.
No, let's not dog on it,
but it's a lot better than 8. I'll put it that way.
I can believe that. The sphere grid was fantastic.
Combat mechanics.
Yes,
standpoint.
yes.
I could do without Blitzball, but whatever. You
that
don't
was
have
another
to do
thing.
Blitzball to beat the game. You only have to do it in like 2 points in the story, and then after that, it's totally optional.
Yeah. But I do plan on getting back to 12 because I hear that one's fantastic, and it takes place in the Final Fantasy Tactics universe, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I would highly encourage you to play 12 because it is easily. I think it's probably in my top 3 Final Fantasy games, and we're actually going to talk about a song from Final Fantasy 12 right now.
What?
Layup, Mike.
Layup. I set you up.
Yeah. So Final Fantasy 12 is a game that is near and dear to my heart, and Uematsu did not do the entirety of the soundtrack. He contributed a few songs to it, along with a few kind of remakes of some songs from prior games. And one of those is what I've chosen right now, which is Battle on the Big Bridge, the Zodiac Age version.
So nuts.
I don't know if it actually is drastically different than the original version, but Zodiac Age is the re-release of the game that they made a lot of mechanical adjustments to make it a little bit more balanced, because the original game was kind of too easy at points. And man, this freaking song
It's a great song,
so good.
It's so good.
This is a song that's actually shown up in a bunch of different Final Fantasy games. It may have been in another game besides 12, after 5 when it originally came out. I can't remember when, but
that's nuts. I had no idea.
Yeah. So Final Fantasy 12 introduced this thing called the hunt system, because the game actually, it kind of plays almost like a single player MMO in some sense. Like it has that sort of feel to it. It's open world. You can explore the whole place. There's zones. Like it's very different than a traditional, Final Fantasy game in terms of like, you go here on your airship and you fly to here and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So the hunt system hints at a few points at this lone warrior with his dog who has gone down into the mines beneath one of the cities, and you need to go track him down. And then, you're walking through this relatively low level zone that you go to, like it's one of the first dungeons you do in the whole game. And you get to this bridge that's over, open air essentially, because this is a floating mining city. And who shows up but Gilgamesh?
Floating mining city.
Yep. Who shows up but Gilgamesh?
Gilgamesh.
Oh man. So the really cool thing about this, and this is not really a spoiler, you actually have to fight Gilgamesh in this game, I think 3 times.
Of course you do.
Because when you go down to do the hunt, you fight him, you beat him, and he runs away. But then he runs deeper into the mines, into an area that you are way too low level to go into. So you have to come back later in the game after you've leveled up and chase him down. You beat him a second time, and then same thing. He bounces and goes even further into the mines, into this area with like level 65 monsters that are like, I remember when I fought him the first time, my wife was watching me try to get down to the final area that he's in, and all the enemies in the surrounding area are like 10 levels higher than me. So I'm having to like use all these spells to, shield myself and then kite through enemies to try and get to the zone line so that I can get to the actual boss. And I probably should have leveled up more before I tried to fight him. I did beat him, but it took a while and many attempts.
If I can beat Final Fantasy X at level 44, you can beat Gilgamesh under level.
Beat Gilgamesh at level probably 44. Yeah, phenomenal song. I know I was basically just telling this whole story about why this part of the game was so much fun to play, but what do you think about the freaking song, Mike?
No, it's fantastic. I was so happy when you sent the title over. I'm like, that's not Final Fantasy 12. And then I listened to it. I was like, oh, they redid it. He redid it. And it is it's a fan favorite, and for good reason. I think this song is just a blast to listen to. There's a little bit of whimsy in it, but overall it stays on point. It is incredibly tense and exciting. And that opening scale, I love it. It just sets the stage for the song, and it just kicks the song off in a really fun way. I'm excited he used the song again, and it sounds great on the 12 soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It's got just enough to kind of modernize it, at least in 2006 or 7, whenever that came out. Mm-hmm. And it's a blast to listen to, even now.
Yeah, I think that one thing that really struck me with this song the first time that I played through the game was it was just about as close to honest to goodness orchestration as I had ever seen in this is a PS2 title, I think. It was one of the last PS2 titles to come out. And the utilization of the sound chip in this is just freaking outstanding. I mean, it sounds real close to being honest to goodness or instruments.
Mm-hmm. They got really, really good soundtracks sometimes on the PlayStation 2. And to be fair, I know a lot of soundtracks were actual soundtracks with actual instruments. And I'm not quite sure that Nobuo Uematsu used real instruments for this soundtrack. But
no, he did not.
Yeah, still phenomenal. Sounds amazing. And another reason why this song kicks ass.
And it fits the character of Gilgamesh so well because he's a little goofy. He's comic relief in many points.
Absolutely.
And it's the perfect theme for him.
And I'm almost positive that he is the reason this song is in Final Fantasy V.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you fight him on the big bridge.
You fight him on literally a thing called the Big Bridge.
Right. Okay.
So
I haven't played 5 in a while, but
that's where the song comes from. It's the battle on the Big Bridge. You'd think they would have a better name for it than Big Bridge, but no, they don't.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
There's one thing you can count on with Square and Final Fantasy is tongue-in-cheek humor.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're talking about bosses and lame bad guys who run away, let's talk about a real boss. The next song I want to talk about is Dancing Mad from Final Fantasy VI. We have referenced it once or twice on the show, and Magus Media is inspired in a roundabout way, and my online handle as well, Dancing Magus, draws inspiration from this song. This is one intricately composed 4-movement final boss battle. Again, this was done on Super Nintendo. Simply put, we had not heard anything like this in gaming up until this point. I don't care who you are, what game you throw at me. This is a 17-minute roller coaster. It brings the main theme of the game full circle, opening with the 3 sustained chords from the title video that you saw on the title screen. Everything about this song brings what you're seeing, the giant detailed sprite work, the darkness of the ever-changing background, to life. From moment 1, you feel the threat and determination to overcome it. It's such a beautiful song, a very well-written song, and what draws me to it is it's not the fact that it's long and exciting, but the fact that it has 4 distinct movements.
Yeah.
The battle itself plays on Dante's Inferno, with the enemies representing the 4 stages, the stages of hell, purgatory, and heaven. We're not here to necessarily talk about the monster design, but it is a marvel. It is the biggest sprite. I think it's like 6 feet tall if you were to make it yourself. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. Yeah, it's fucking huge. The song represents these moments and movements in battle in different ways. With the Dante's Inferno reference, I believe each tier of the enemy represents aspects of Kefka's psychosis. The first would be anger and might. He's a very hateful person, a spiteful person. He's also nuts, which I think the music beautifully illustrates in the second movement, with the vocalizations punctuating almost carnival-like music. And then this all fades into the third tier, which would be heaven. depicting a pious figure being accompanied by a beautiful woman, Mary perhaps. And this goes along with his very distorted self-image, how much better than everyone he believes himself to be.
Yeah.
So it's an intricately crafted song for an intricately crafted bad guy, or last battle. And I don't know that they had done something quite as woven together until this. This song is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the whole soundtrack for Final Fantasy VI is, I mean, it was genre defining across the board. I mean, we have Dancing Mad, which, I mean, you've beautifully articulated all the reasons that this really is a true masterpiece of musical design. But, you know, we have the opera of Maria and Draco, and we have, I mean, the list goes on. We could talk about so many incredible songs from this game. But I don't think that I've ever gone through kind of the last boss or the last dungeon of a game and felt the same level of both menace and awe that I get when I listen to this song. I still remember the first time that I fought him. I couldn't believe what was happening. I mean,
exactly.
It was like,
it just keeps going.
Like what?
You describe it perfectly, because you're jazzed up from, you're at the final battle, it, but you're also a little scared because you don't know what to expect. And then your mouth is agape that the fact that this battle keeps going. And you don't know when it's going to end. So
yeah, I remember beating the first phase and then not like, the whole background fading out and then having some more chit chat with the boss and going into another phase, but literally like the whole screen starts to move up and all my characters reappear on this second stage. It's like I just went up an elevator and now I'm fighting this whole nother boss. And it goes on again and again. And, the use of organs in this song is really the thing that sets it apart from pretty much anything that I had heard in video game music in the past. The organs follow all the way from the very first movement to the last. And, I know we've talked a couple of times about going to see Distant Worlds, the live concert performances of Final Fantasy music that, they've done a bunch of different tours at this point. I think they put out like 6 or 7 albums. I've personally been to see Distant Worlds, I don't know, like 5 or 6 times. Plus I've seen their chamber music version in New World twice, which is equally incredible. But this is a song that they don't get to play on every tour date because there aren't that many concert halls in the United States that have fully functional pipe organs, and Boston Symphony Hall happens to be one of them. saw them at Boston Symphony Hall, not this last time, but the time prior. Arnie Roth came on stage and they called Nobuo-san up, and they both directed, and they said that, we're very lucky because we get to hear the full 4-movement version of Dancing Mad live. And it was, it blew the doors off the place. It was incredible. Freaking incredible. It's something I'll never forget.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I'm jealous because, one, Uematsu could not be there at my show. Mm-hmm. And two, it sounds like you got quite the show. That's awesome. I'm happy for you because that's beautiful. And to see a song like this with so many intricate parts and different parts being performed live, I'm sure it wasn't 17 minutes. It was probably closer to 10 or 12 live, but yeah, fantastic. Just so much goes into it, and an ending with the showdown with Kefka's god form, And before Sephiroth, ladies and gentlemen, there was Kefka, the winged angel of death and judgment. Mm-hmm. And his music really reflects that ultimate battle with just a strong, heart-pounding drum beat, organs taking the lead. This whole album, Final Fantasy VI, is very high on organs. And I think it was really the first time he had used organs. Not this song, but the album. I'm trying to think of, Final Fantasy 4 and 5 and if they used a lot of organs or not, but I really don't think so. And so Final Fantasy VI really brought that instrument to the forefront, and he utilizes it a lot since then. So yeah, this song is just fantastic. And it ends with a bang. Kefka's final form, the really tense, exciting boss fight. You love it. This was their ultimate swan song. They were moving from 2D games to 3D. So this was their big swing for the fences.
Yeah. That move into the 4th movement, when the whole tone of the song totally changes, the percussion kicks in, and then the sharp kind of staccato use of the organ picks up, which it wasn't present anywhere else in the previous movements of the song.
Yep.
Oh, man. And then you're fighting Kefka, and you're like, dude, I don't even, what is going on? He uses the freaking bullshit attack, Fallen One. All your characters HP to 1. You're like, what just happened?
Scares the hell out of you, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I made it this far.
Yeah. And some of the magic effects that get used in this particular fight that you don't see anywhere else in the game are just like jaw-dropping for the Final Fantasy series, and for SNES in general. I mean, this was the high water mark. It really was.
Really beautiful. All around beautiful.
Yeah. So, we're talking about emotional impacts. And not only did I play all the mainline series, but I also played the 2 online games. I played Final Fantasy XI for a very long time. That was actually my first MMO. And I could do probably 2 or 3 episodes just on the soundtrack for that game because it's gigantic. And there's just so many phenomenal memories tied up in it. When I was looking through the soundtrack for the second online game, Final Fantasy XIV, there were a few songs by Uematsu, and one that stood out to me was called Answers. Answers is not a song that you are necessarily going to run into if you play through the game now. So it came at a very, very special moment in time. I don't know if I'm sure, Mike, you've been tied into video game history and current events for a long time, but when Final Fantasy XIV launched,
not well received.
It sucked. I was super hyped. I picked up a physical copy of it, brought it home from GameStop, installed it, played for about 3 days, and said, this game is terrible. It's laggy. The environments feel very copy-pasted. The balance is not very good. The balance is not very good. And I kept kind of trucking through and playing the game for a while. And eventually I decided that, it just wasn't as polished as I'd like it to be. And I set it down. Well, the developers listened
Yeah.
And they said, we're sorry. This got rushed. We are going to work on basically remaking the game. Remaking a game.
Yeah.
And they did. So they kept the servers up for quite some time. They had some end game content for the original version of the game. And then there came a point where they said, okay, the servers are going down. Final Fantasy XIV, as you know it, is going to be gone. When the servers come back up, you're going to log back in to the new version of the game. And they didn't just shut the game off and turn it back on and all of a sudden everything was,
pretty
beautiful. They had a whole storyline that went into the world ending, which is literally what happens while this song is playing. This song only plays one time in Final Fantasy XIV, and it's during the FMV called End of an Era that plays when they shut the servers down. And it shows the heroes trying to save the world and failing.
That's awesome.
And then Louisoix, who's the guy that's mentored them and found a way to, put Bahamut back into a celestial cage so that he can't destroy the world, sees the plan fail and fall apart, and then teleports the Warriors of Light essentially to another dimension to try and fix the mistakes that were made and stop the world from being destroyed there.
That's brilliant, actually, now that you describe it that way.
Incredible.
Like they took their own actual failure as a company and as a production team and turned it into a story element. I had no idea that's what happened.
Yeah.
I know and knew that the first one flopped and then A Realm Reborn came out. I just thought that was a cute title to say, hey, we fucked up the first time.
No.
So that's cool.
They literally incorporated it into the storytelling of the game. And if you guys, even if you have not played Final Fantasy XIV, I would strongly encourage anybody listening to this to look up the end of an era video. It's on the official Final Fantasy site. It's like 5 minutes long, and it's one of the most glorious cinematics that I think I've ever seen in a Final Fantasy game ever.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, that gives this song a whole new meaning, and the song is great to listen to. It's not something I expected to hear. I know they have gotten into obviously real instruments but vocalizations, singing. There's a lot of singing in this song, and very intense. I can feel the intensity of that situation you just described now when I'm watching this and listening to this song.
Yeah, and huge props to the vocalist Susan Calloway.
Oh yeah,
she has got a set of pipes, and I've seen her actually perform this song and a few others at Distant Worlds concerts. She's actually from Detroit. She's fantastic. Has a couple of independent albums as well, but she's basically been one of the de facto voices of the Final Fantasy series ever since this song came out. She's done a bunch of them. Awesome. I think that she actually did a song in Final Fantasy XI, Memoria de la Stona. I think so. Yeah.
Awesome.
So she's been part of the Final Fantasy series for many, many years at this point, and every time they bring her back, it's just an absolute banger. I mean, man.
Beautiful voice. And who'd have thought a lone woman from Detroit being a part of Final Fantasy forever? I love that stuff because, it was always my dream to have something to do with Final Fantasy when I was a kid. But yeah, she's living the dream and she's very talented.
I believe that she was actually handpicked by Nobuo Uematsu after because they were looking for a vocalist to do a number of songs in several different games in the series, and she auditioned along with some other folks, and he said she's the one, and she has been ever since.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. What an accolade! What an honor! I guess is just the best way to put it. To have him pick you out of countless other people. I informed my best friend Ethan that we were doing this type of show today, and he wanted to contribute something, and I have no problem with that. He wanted to contribute a song that was near and dear to his heart, and I knew his favorite Final Fantasy was 4. We've been friends for 30 years now, and in my heart, I knew he was going to pick this song just because. It is a wonderful pick, truly a blood-pumping good time, and it is, of course, the boss music from Final Fantasy IV. Oh, what a track. This song is so exciting to listen to, and I do think this is the first time that Uematsu really wrote a fight song that felt utterly exciting. He came really close with Final Fantasy III's boss music, but it wasn't quite there in my opinion. We all know I love punchy bass line, and this song has that. Although I will say my second favorite aspect of this song is the horn accents in the first and final parts of the song. But that string melody in the middle is so good when it crescendos. You really, if you want to feel like your life is at stake, listen to the song. This is one of the best boss music themes in the series, at least.
Oh yeah, easily. I mean, it's not like every single boss in the game is super hard. There are some that are a legitimate challenge, and so this song's sense of desperation really drives home the difficulty level of some of those bosses, and it makes you feel on edge the whole time. It does a great job of it. Yeah,
it's funny you mention even if the boss isn't scary, because I even wrote even if the boss isn't scary, this song makes it feel scary, and your palms get sweaty as you're making your menu choices to this track, even if it's a simple boss fight and something that you're not really afraid of. But this song is just so engaging, so fun to listen to, and you cannot help but enjoy it while you're fighting. Yeah, I'm so glad he picked this song, because I think what we need to do, Jesse, is we should do what do we call it? Like a March Madness of Final Fantasy fight music to see what comes out on top.
That would be a blast.
I think that's something we should do. A series of episodes where we just 2 songs go head to head and we'll see who comes out on top.
And you know what? We've talked about all these great soundtracks for all these great games in the series. And I really feel like if I had to pick one game that I feel like had the most transformative effect on video game soundtracks in general, it's probably got to be Final Fantasy IV. I mean, there are a tremendous number of incredible tracks on here between the boss battle music. I know in the pre-show we were talking about Battle with the Four Fiends, which is like, I mean, that's got to be like in my top 5 Final Fantasy series songs.
So fucking good.
Golbez's theme is incredible. The battle with Zeramis is, I mean, I still listen to it. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, me too. I just listened to it.
Amazing.
Yeah. I turned it on for no reason the other day, and I was like, fucking love this song. One of my favorites, my all-time favorites on this album is Within the Giant.
Yeah.
Oh, such an awesome song, such desperation and sense of, you know what your mission is and you're going to get it done. And it comes at a time where the stakes could not be higher in that game. And it just feels so appropriate the way that song was written. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to just encapsulate Nobuo Uematsu's entire career. I mean, it's a huge task, and I don't think it's something that really anybody can do. It's certainly not us in, just an hour and a half of recording, but everything that he writes tells a story. And it doesn't matter if it's something big and bombastic like Battle on the Big Bridge or, Battle 2, the boss battle music from Final Fantasy IV, or something more lighthearted like Black Mage Village from Final Fantasy IX, which is just an incredibly fun, positive, upbeat song that totally changes the tone of something that could otherwise be a kind of a somber moment in the game in many ways. I feel like everything that he does is measured, and he takes a great account of the setting and the impact that the visuals are intended to have on the viewer.
Absolutely.
It's not like you have a big bombastic song that's playing on top of big bombastic stuff that's happening on the screen.
It's calculated.
If you actually, like as an example, if you go watch that video that I talked about with Answers, the beats of the music are timed perfectly. And obviously it was intended this way. It's for an FMV, so it's like, writing for cinema. But the beats of the song are timed perfectly with shifts in what you're actually seeing happen on the screen in a really masterful way.
Yeah.
It elicits emotion. It brings you back to the moments that you were playing through these games every time you listen to the music. And that's really, I think, the thing that makes video game music in general such a powerful genre for me. It's why I love it so much. And I think that he does that better than just about anybody else.
Yeah. And we could go on for hours talking about this man and his music. To say he's one of the most important composers in video games history is really putting it lightly. The truth is he's deserving of every accolade he's ever received. He's a master craftsman, and his imagination knows no bounds. I think to have consistently written songs for video games since 1986, including the entire first 9 games of the Final Fantasy series, that's no small feat by any sense of the word. And honestly, it is because of him that I'm here today. I'm 40 years old tomorrow, October 24th, celebrating his contributions to my life. And it sounds heavy-handed, but his music is what really opened my eyes to what a soundtrack could be, what video games could be. These games wouldn't have a third of the impact they did without his watchful eye and ear. And it helped bring emotion and inspiration to my creativity in music and writing. Before Final Fantasy, I liked soundtracks, video game soundtracks. But it's because of Nobuo Uematsu that I knew they could be something truly meaningful and absolutely life-changing. So it helped me bond with my sister and my brother, who also played Final Fantasy IV at the same time. And a lot of that bonding was due to characters and music. And it brings back a lot of memories reviewing this stuff for tonight's show. So I just want to say thank you. I know he's never going to hear this, but thank you, Nobuo Uematsu, for your hard work, your dedication to bringing these games to life, and for the musical appreciation you've helped inform so much of my life. So I will give his career, Jesse, an 11 crystals of light out of a possible 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you summed it up beautifully. And it might sound, to your point, a little corny or a little heavy-handed, but I mean, his music legitimately has changed my life. It, I think, had a big impact on a lot of decisions that I've made throughout my life, obviously indirectly, but it also has enriched my life in ways that I don't really think just about anything else has. I have a lot to thank him and the developers of the Final Fantasy series and video games in general for, but I think him more than most. So Nobuo-san, if you can hear us, thank you. From my heart to yours, thank you. I would also have to rate his entire body of work as an 11 out of 10 crystals of light. It's without compare. And before we go, if you'll humor me for a moment, I'd like to just kind of make a couple of recommendations to the listeners. If you've enjoyed this episode, or if you've enjoyed listening to Nobuo Uematsu's music for years like I have, there are a few things that I'd really encourage you to seek out. One of them would be the Distant Worlds orchestra albums. They are readily available on just about every streaming service out there, typically included with the cost of your subscription. Listening to so many of his and other composers' work orchestrated in real life is moving, to say the least. I mean, there were times that I went to go see these shows that I got emotional, cried. They've had huge impact on me. So definitely seek those out. Distant Worlds and A New World. All of those albums are phenomenal. Also look up his bands. He's actually got two, believe it or not. He's got one band called the Black Mages, and then another one called Earthbound Papas. And they've done mostly rock versions of songs from the Final Fantasy series and a couple of other series as well. Super fun to listen to, and definitely worth it if you haven't checked them out before. Yeah. And then lastly, I would say if you like the music from the Final Fantasy series in general, it is absolutely worth your time to listen to the different albums of music that have come out in Final Fantasy 14, which is the current MMO. They have actually in a bunch of the different expansions, each expansion kind of has like a focused story. And very frequently, a given expansion will parallel a lot of the stuff that happens in older Final Fantasy games. There's a lot of callbacks, direct and not so direct callbacks. So Mike really likes Final Fantasy IV's music, as do I. Well, if you go listen to the Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker soundtrack, that whole expansion is pretty tightly based around Final Fantasy IV. You go to the moon, you fight the four fiends, you fight Zeramis as the last boss of the expansion, and all of the songs have been remastered, re-recorded,
new arrangements.
Phenomenal. New arrangements, really phenomenal stuff. And if you want something really special and you like Battle of the Four Fiends, listening to Rubicant's song from the Endwalker expansion, it perfectly exemplifies Rubicant's attitude, and that's all I'll say. Go listen to it. It's fantastic. The whole soundtrack for the game is fantastic, and even if you don't play the game, you can appreciate all of the songs that they've gone back and touched over time.
And I want to say, along with the Distant Worlds soundtrack, on Spotify, you can get that with your subscription. If you want to experience a majority of, I will say, not just the hits, but the music in its original form, buy Final Fantasy Theatrhythm. Yeah. It is for PS5. It's a rhythm game, a music game like Guitar Hero, but it's got so many tracks from Final Fantasy series. And it's like you're just supporting the composers of the entire series, not just Nobuo Uematsu, but there are so many tracks, most of which are that we've talked about tonight can be found on that. It's $60-$70 for the PlayStation 5. It's wonderful to have, and you have so many songs at your beck and call.
Well, crap, now I need to get that.
I've
fun.
Never
played any of the Theater Rhythm games.
I took to it when it was out on DS, and then I saw they were coming out with one for PS5, so I pre-ordered that and platinumed it. It was very fun, and they added so much like RPG element to it that it makes it so fun to replay songs, and it's good stuff.
Nice,
really good stuff.
Awesome.
But that is the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed our little bit of a change of pace for tonight's episode. I know it was set in motion by the announcement that he had been retired, which again is not correct. Thank God. But yeah, we wanted to make sure we still did it because whether he's retiring or not, he is someone worth the honor of talking about for an entire show. So thank you again, Nobuo Uematsu, and thank you for listening.
Yeah. And thank you for Mike for coming up with the idea to do this, because I mean, I think, we could over time go back and cover all of these different Final Fantasy games, but realistically speaking, that's probably not going to happen. There's just too many of them, and there's too much other stuff to do. We're not trying to make a Final Fantasy soundtracks podcast here. We're trying to make a video game soundtracks podcast.
Right.
But I think that this idea for sort of like a thank you or a love letter to Nobuo Uematsu and his career was perfect. So good job, bud.
Thanks.
Also, did you know that the second Earthbound Papa's album's title is called Dancing Dad?
Nice. I did not know that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All
right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe. We very much appreciate it. Also visit our brand new website, magusmediaproductions.net, to get all information on every show. See you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple. We
certainly did not.
Try again. Scratch that.
Check it out. Look it up.
John?
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, you like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say, we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.